Welcome to another episode of Under the Strap. I'm your host, John Rathouz, and on this edition, I catch up with Matt Minister, aka Revy, caddy for Patrick Cantlay, the defending FedEx Cup champion. So it's a perfect week to hear the Reverend preach a bit. He's a lot like his pro, very measured and thoughtful, with a sneaky sense of humor, and we covered a lot of ground. Revy started with Chris Smith over 20 years ago and was in the right place at the right time when he started up with a rebounding Cantlay in 2017. We catch up on their solid season, the gift of being at home with his family all of last fall after the Ryder Cup, the sacrifice and compromise of family life as a caddy, why Cantlay was perfectly suited to take down the FedEx Cup last year, and what you need to do well at East Lake to thrive. One word: driving. How grateful he is to be working for such a high-earning pro, how he goes about his business, being a part of their team, and his viewpoints on the current state of professional golf. We conclude with some President's Cup and major championship discussion with a special guest appearance from his roommate, Scott Tway, country caddy for Brian Harmon. Don't blink or you'll miss it. Enjoy this episode of Under the Strap. Hey, join now Under the Strap by Matt Minister, caddy for Patrick Cantlay. Thanks for jumping on, man.
Hey, great to be here.
Yeah, defending FedEx Cup champs caddy. Great time to have you on ahead of East Lake. I first met you, I think it was 2017 or 2018. I don't know if you remember this, but there was a shuttle ride at Pebble Beach, and we were both in the same shuttle, maybe coming from one of the golf courses. And I always remember people mentioning your name, Revy, the Reverend. I was like, who? I just think we came around at the two different times and we'd never met. Tell me about the nickname. I mean, it's somewhat self-explanatory. Your last name's Minister.
So that's the easy part. I was preacher my entire time growing up playing Little League baseball, and preacher was my nickname forever. High school, not really, and then I go to college, and within my first week, Bobby Sims, who played at Ohio State, and he just like, the Reverend. Well, you say Rev, and then that stuck. So when I started out here, I started caddying for Chris Smith, and so he knew me as Rev because Ohio State, and so that came with me.
I got you. And you mentioned Chris Smith because I was going to ask you kind of who are some of the – man, what a player Chris Smith was. I mean, prolific winner, especially on the Korn Ferry Tour. Was he the first guy you started looping for, and who are some others? How'd you get into the whole gig?
So, it's kind of thinking about that, and I told this story earlier this summer. I caddied for Andrew McGee in a strange little Titleist, they came to Brookside Country Club in Columbus, and there were like 4 Titleist staff members. And I was one of the junior golfers at the club. And so I got a chance to caddy for Andrew McGee for like 3 holes. And I thought it was the coolest thing ever because, I wanted to be a tour player. And here I was standing next to him and all that. And, then I caddied for my roommate, got him into U.S. Open one time when we were in college. And then ended up caddying for Chris when I was still doing Monday qualifiers on the whatever Korn Ferry Tour it was back then. Miss on a Monday, caddy for Chris starting Tuesday, and we finished second the first week, missed again on a Monday, finished, I think we lost in a playoff the second week to another Buckeye that Chris and him were roommates when they were in school, Steve Runge.
Who was that?
Steve Runge.
Oh, yeah, Steve Runge.
So, I mean, just a crazy moment, being in a playoff for the second time I've ever caddied.
Yeah.
With all Buckeyes being involved in it is pretty wild. But, my first 2 experiences caddying really on a tour were awfully good. And so that's sort of, the hook was massively in the mouth, and here I am.
Right. Yeah, you mentioned Andrew McGee there, so I'm hoping maybe he gave you like a Cleveland visor at the end of the day or something. And then did you grow up playing at Brookside? Like, is that your jam?
I did, yeah. That was my home course, yeah.
Dude, I love that track.
Me too. They just redid it, and it just opened up, and they took out some trees and just redid a couple holes, 15 and well, it's not 15 anymore now; it's 16. But anyway, they did a nice job, and I think the membership, and hopefully someday the guys will play another U.S. Open qualifier there.
Yeah, I hope so too. I've been fired at that golf course before.
I mean, if your pro can't hit it straight there, you're gonna get fired. I mean, geez.
Well, it was I'd worked for John Merrick for like 6 years. We had a great run, and he rehired me back, and it just didn't go like we wanted it to. And I remember him airmailing this green, and we made the turn on our 27th hole, and his wife's there in the parking lot, cars running. And I'm like, dude, it's been fun. We'll see you later, So that's probably the last time I caddied out there. But anyways, so then how about Patrick? I mean, when did you get the call from Patrick? How did that all come about?
Interestingly enough, I was working for Chris Kirk, and we had a bad finish in the desert. Couple water balls to finish the round off, and things we had a really 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 good run, and maybe it kind of come to its end, and he said, as Chris does, because he switches caddies up a bunch, he's like, listen, I'm going to go with somebody else. That's all good, dude. And so I went home, but I had been planning on caddying for Chris at Pebble Beach. And so I'm sitting at home. I get a phone call from Heath Holt, and he was sitting next to John Yarborough. And they're like, hey, listen, an agent reached out, and do you remember a guy, Patrick Cantlay? And I'm kind of thinking, I mean, yes, probably because he shot 60, at the Travelers. I said, yeah, I remember his name. Well, they're looking for a caddy for Pebble. He hasn't played in 3 years, and your name came up because you're not working or whatever. And I said, yeah, have the agent call me. And Patrick's agent at the time called me and said, Pat's looking for 1 week. Would you be willing to do it? I still had a plane flight, and I had a hotel room that I hadn't canceled. And I thought, why wouldn't I go give it a shot? Not thinking anything future, just, I need to work. I don't have a full-time job, and, our gig is, you have to be seen to, keep getting employed, really. It's kind of tough that way.
Yeah, that must have been like 2017, I'm thinking, when I look back
It was.
at Patrick's, results year by year. And then it's funny because I talked to Joel earlier in the week, maybe a little different situation because Zalatoris is like, established, and Patrick was kind of reestablished himself. But timing is just so much a part of the deal.
It's everything.
When you get that phone call.
It really is everything. Pat has asked me since, A, why did I come all the way out to California to caddy for him? And B, even after that week, he might have finished 40th or 35th, somewhere, middle of the pack. And I think in his mind showed me no reason to continue to work for him, or, it was just a 1 week job, and he was going to go play Tampa was his next start. And I said, absolutely, I'll work for you in Tampa, no problem. And he's asked me, why? I showed you nothing. Right. In his mind, he showed me nothing, and so why would I bother to go work for him in Tampa? And I told him since that, you hadn't played in 3 years. You made putts that you had to make. The way you dealt with some of the mental stuff that, he could have laid down. It could have been really easy for him to miss the cut in Pebble, and he didn't. And to me, that showed a lot of moxie and a lot of guts. And that would be the reason I agreed to work in Tampa for him the next time. And he finished second. So my gut feeling was pretty good.
Yeah, and did you guys get caught up in a playoff there too?
It wasn't a playoff, but it felt like it because Adam Hadwin had the lead most of the tournament. He was playing great, and we sort of caught him on the front nine. And so the whole back nine was basically a match play type scenario. And we were tied on 18.
Gotcha.
And we made bogey and he made par.
Gotcha.
So.
You and I had caught up last in the fall with Mark Urbanek. You guys had just won the Ryder Cup, and really solid season for Patrick so far. You were on the bag with the win with Xander, the team win, and a lot of close calls. I counted 7 top 5s. I know you've involved in a couple playoffs. You haven't quite got that Indy win yet. There's still a couple weeks left here. But how about what Finau's been doing the last month?
I look at it like what sort of Scotty did in, what was that, February, and then rode through April. You know, winning is infectious, and if you once you get that taste, you know, you can ride it, and I think it's very similar. Unfortunately, Scotty's first win came at our expense in a playoff, but you know, a guy like that, and same as Tony, I mean, these guys are so incredibly talented. You know, eventually it's going to happen. And once they get that taste, once they see how to get the win, you know, they can run with it.
Yeah. Well, I was interested too, just to kind of look. And who's walking in back there?
There's the great country.
Oh, the great country.
That's the kind of person you need to be talking to, not me.
Scott Tway. What a legend. I was telling him about the quarterback he's got coming next year from Omaha.
Yes. I'm excited.
He's excited now. Hey, but so then what I was looking at your guys' last fall, he didn't play. How cool was that?
I've never had that much time off.
Yeah.
So getting to reconnect with my family, and my kids got to know me again, and so did my wife for that matter. So, you know, it's in our gig, you don't get to have that sort of time off.
Yeah.
I think it was great for Patrick. Yes, we haven't had wins, but you look at, like you just stated, I mean, our season's been really consistent, really solid. You base everything on wins. When you get to Patrick's level, I mean, that's all he cares about. Yeah. So ultimately, has our year been a success? You know, not entirely. Because you want the championships, and those look a lot better than second place finishes. But I do think part of that was because of him recharging his batteries and taking the time off, getting his body right, and he came out gangbusters.
He doesn't play as much as other guys, though, which is that a purposeful choice for him? Is he kind of a quality over quantity guy, or is?
Definitely. I think he looked at Tiger's way of doing things. I think sort of modeled it a little bit after that, in that you try to prepare, you play the places you like, you play the courses that fit your game. Not that many don't fit Patrick's, but you're better off really focusing and getting everything right for those weeks that you decide to play.
Right. And just to flip back there a little bit, you said some interesting things about your family. And I think I remember you telling me your wife, she's from Ireland originally.
Yeah.
Which is awesome. Just, I guess, give people, I mean, there's a lot of people that travel for a living, right? But ours is pretty interesting. I mean, you're stringing 2, 3, sometimes 4 weeks in a row. I guess just give people a little bit of an idea on, I mean, there's a sacrifice on our end because, you know, we're out there, we're away from the family, but there's also a big sacrifice and compromise, you know, from your wife's perspective as well. I guess just, you know, how does that all play out for you guys? I mean, it's an awesome thing to be able to, you know.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things you could say. You could say, you know, as far as my wife and my relationship goes, absence makes the heart grow fonder. You know, I do think there's something to that, and each time we get back together, you reconnect, and you're not on each other's nerves all the time. However, you know, she's raising 2 boys at home by herself a majority of the time, which is really hard to do, and so there's a lot of phone calls and a lot of tough times, you know, when you're trying to parent from thousands of miles away. This summer, you know, Pat doesn't play a lot, but this summer he's going to end up playing 9 of 12 weeks, which is a lot. And, you know, summer times when you have your kids out of school, and that's when families try to make vacations and everything, and when you're playing this much, you can't have a vacation with your family, and so that makes things harder for us, makes things harder for the kids. I brought my youngest son to Michigan, and so he got to spend the week with me alone, which was awesome. I mean, it really was. We don't get to spend that much time alone, because when I'm home, it's the four of us together, and so you don't get that individual time. So you look at the grand scheme of things, and you could say, well, heck, you're at home 20 weeks of the year without anything to do. You can give your full amount of time. Well, it's not 20 in a row. It might be a bunch of 1 weeks where you're coming home, you're worn out, and it's like, all right, here's everything put back on your plate. You need to do this broke in the house, this broke in the house, and the kids need this, and I'm tired. Your wife's worn out and she wants a break, and it's hard to fit all that into 1 week when you come home. It's a really interesting lifestyle.
That's really cool that your son was there, because you guys played good in Detroit too.
Yeah, played great.
I went out. I've caddied 2 times this year. I've caddied 2 times in the last month, and I went to the Wyndham, caddied for Steven Yeager. And of course, my daughter, I have one daughter, you have 2 kids that are older than mine, but she had diarrhea for 7 days in a row. Like literally the day I left.
Wow.
And I was talking to another guy in our group. He's like, I've been on the road for like 5 weeks. He's like, our air conditioner broke last week. I was like, well, why is that the way that it works? But
it's the way it works every time. It is. That's just, I don't get it either, but that's what happens.
That's funny. All right, well, let's talk about the FedEx Cup win last year. Take us inside the ropes a little bit. I mean, an awesome season for him. He had the 2 wins heading into it, one in the fall and one again in the summertime. Exhilarating playoff win over DeChambeau.
Yeah.
And that was week 2. Week 1, you guys finished tied for 11th. How did the win at the BMW last year kind of affect your guys' thinking, mentality going into Eastlake?
His coach, Jamie Mulligan, and I were just talking about that. And one of the things we were speaking about was the fact that we really didn't talk about it. Yes, you won. Yes, you were, starting at -10, and you knew you were in the lead. You knew what you were playing for. You knew how big it was. But you show up to Eastlake and you prepare. You make sure that you understand the course. Has anything changed? Is it the same? You think about the things you didn't do well the year before. So fortunately for Patrick, he's played there. And so he knew, his finishes before weren't very good, which doesn't necessarily exude confidence, but you look at, okay, I haven't putted as good. What do I need to do better putting? I didn't chip well out of the rough. You try to find something different technique-wise to chip better out of the Bermuda rough. And that's actually what he did last year. And it wasn't about thinking, I have to win. Oh my gosh, I could make all this money or anything like that. No, it's another week where you try to prepare because you want to do well. I mean, and every time this guy goes out, it's the only thing that's important to him is winning.
Yeah, that helps in that situation.
It does.
What do you think of the staggered start, kind of that they've started to do at the Tour Championship?
Well, I mean, the truth would be, fortunately, we had the staggered start last year because that was the cushion we needed to win. I think if it had been just the event on its own, Patrick would have finished 4th. So because of the accumulation of points throughout the year, plus the way he played in the playoffs, equals his lead, and
Gotcha.
and that helped get the victory. I've never looked at it or compared it to the years past. I mean, I remember back when VJ skipped playoff events because his point lead was so high. Is this the right format? Will it ever be tinkered with again? I mean, most likely it will be.
I think there's a lot that's about to be tinkered with.
Yeah.
In the next year or so. What insights can you share about for having success at Eastlake? I've never caddied there before. I'm gonna have a lot of people asking me, "Hey, who do you like this week?" And that. I mean, what do you think about when you think about playing well at Eastlake?
Driving the ball, the Bermuda rough coming into those greens. Obviously, a lot depends on how much rain they've had, whether the greens are firm or not. But the better you drive it, the better your chances are of hitting the greens. The greens are amazing green complexes, great slopes to them, and when they get them, they're always in great shape, so they're fast. And so, getting your ball on the right side of the hole, being able to land your ball on the green and keep it on the green is incredibly huge. And to me, hitting the fairways is the most important part. Par threes are really hard. I think if you can play the par threes if your goal is to get through there at even par, you're saving yourself a ton of strokes.
I gotta think you gotta have a good bunker game too, though, because I'm thinking people missing fairways. You're ending up in bunkers a lot on purpose, almost, aren't you?
You would prefer to be, yes. Fat side bunker, not above the hole. That is better than leaving it in some nasty little Bermuda lies.
It's an incredible financial whirlwind for the player, and I'm sure that trickles down to the caddy as well. I guess how do you process all that? That just like it's the biggest prize in golf. I mean, I know the Live Tour is kind of messing with that whole system a little bit, but I mean it's a huge windfall.
When you started this interview, you were talking about when I started caddying. Hanging out with Chris, and I remember when Chris won in 2002, I believe his first place check was maybe $540,000, and I thought that was amazing. And you fast forward 20 years later, and the money that's being thrown around now is astronomical. Thankful. It's pretty amazing to be able to be on the bag of somebody that can earn the type of money he's earning.
Sure.
I definitely think the job in general, the job that we all do hasn't changed, but the stress of the job has gotten a lot higher because of what's on the line. It's life-changing type money.
Yeah. Well, you and Patrick both handle it very well. I mean, I had Michael Collins on the podcast about a month ago, and we went through the top 10 rankings at the time and talked about each one of their caddies. And he was really impressed with how you kind of flatline out there, a lot like your player. You can't really tell if it's up or down. So he had that compliment too. He also said that you have a sneaky good sense of humor, which
it's a little dry. I think what you said, I mean, for my job, you sort of, what you need to do to tailor your behavior to your player, to what makes them happy and what they want out of you. Patrick doesn't want me out there goofing around and yucking it up. He wants me on point, and whatever he needs, I need to be there for that. So, I do like to laugh. I like to have fun, but when you're out there working, you do the job,
Yeah, it seems like it's a really good fit.
It has been a great fit, and there are times where Patrick and I do get to laugh, and we do laugh about certain things. You're just never going to see it on the camera, I don't think.
Do you share the same love for music that he does?
Yes, our musical tastes aren't. I like everything, and he likes a certain genre, and I like pretty much all genres. And I got two teenage boys who like rap, and I never really cared for rap music, but now I know way more rap music than I ever thought I would. We were out on the course today, and Kelly James is playing all sorts of music. He's rapping over certain things.
Yep.
And every single song I knew, and every one, Pat's going, God, this is terrible. This sucks. And, I like all of it, but that is something that we do talk about. We both like music, and we went to one concert together and had a great time. So
That's cool. Yeah, that Kelly James, he's made quite a career for himself. I mean, he does other things, but dude going around just freestyling at pro-ams, I mean, that's pretty sick.
It's an incredible niche, and he's very good at it.
President's Cup is coming up too. Your boys 2 for 2 on winning teams. I think the squad is going to look a bit different this time around. You got Davis Love III is the captain. I guess, what have your communications been about that event, and what's your excitement level for it?
The communication's been nil. My excitement level is down. I'm not going to lie. Because of everything that's happened, it's taken a lot of great players off the international squad, and I think what we would love to see is a great competition. Not to say that whoever's going to fill those spots, and I haven't looked at the list, aren't great players, but
right.
You want to see best against the best, and I'm not 100% sure that that's what we're going to see. So hopefully everyone that's involved can, get their spirits up and show up and put on a great exhibition.
Well, yeah, I got to think. I mean, Quill Hall is a great track. It leads to a lot of excitement. The people of North Carolina are going to be up for it, no matter who's there. So I think, once it comes around, I'm sure, I mean, you guys know a little bit what to expect. And it certainly isn't the Ryder Cup, I guess, but it's an interesting segue, some of your comments there. Maybe if you wanted to give any of your feelings on the state of the game of professional golf at the moment without maybe, getting as specific as you'd like.
Well, I think all the best players should be playing against each other, and that's been tainted recently. I think we all should be playing in the same events, and that's not happening right now.
Yeah.
I don't know what transpires, how we get back to that happening, but that's my hope for the future, is that we're all playing against each other in the tournaments that I've grown up loving and want to see continue and have the great history continue. So I don't know how that happens, but I hope it can.
Yeah, there's a lot of ego involved right now that might not be good for everyone. I'd be interested to see in a couple of years what it does look like. I wish that the Live Tour would have only bid off 8 tournaments in a year. I wish the PGA Tour would have kind of taken it a little bit more seriously. I do think there's a way for them to both coexist, but right now it's just brutal the way it's just kind of everybody's,
Well, and it's just taken too much of the focus off, what's always been there. These tournaments and all the tournaments that have been happening for the last 6 months are great events and have great history and great towns that host them. And each week, instead of the focus being on, all that stuff that we've been used to, it's been about the divisiveness, which goes right along with our world these days anyway. So.
I love how Patrick's been more vocal in the media center. He seems like he's kind of found his voice or his little shtick up there now. He likes to be opinionated when he can, but he's usually quiet. He's very thoughtful. Have you always noticed that, being with him on a daily basis and how he goes about his business? Do you see that on a daily basis, kind of that mindfulness?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's been him from day one. He thinks a lot. He likes to pick people's brains. I think that's how he develops his opinions, is that he takes a lot in and then decides what he feels. And I do think he has a good voice. I do think most of everything he says has been well thought out. Whether or not people agree with him, I mean, that's opinions, right? Not everybody's going to agree with you, but he definitely isn't just speaking off the cuff. Everything that comes out of his mouth has been thought about for a while.
Yeah. Well, he's a part of a great team. I mean, he's the leader of his squad, and I've had a chance. I mean, I worked with John Merrick for 6 years, so I was with Jamie Mulligan a lot, and I knew about Patrick mid-2000s. I mean, Jamie was already talking about him. Past PGA of America Teacher of the Year. I guess just talk about kind of the team aspect, maybe mostly between the three of you guys. He might have other guys on his squad, a trainer, an agent, all that, but just like how you three work together on a weekly basis.
So when I got hired, it was a small team, and Jamie, without a doubt, was very much the leader, and I would say still is, but it has, it's morphed a bunch. But at that time, for the first couple of years, Jamie was there a lot, and so there was constant communication. There was a lot of phone calls when he wasn't able to be there. Pretty much a check-in at all times. What's going on? How is he doing? Tell me what you see. And I think that's what makes a good team. There's a lot of communication. Patrick feeds Jamie his. He and I have our work on the golf course, and we're always talking about stuff on the course. So it's easy to sort of feed it through, and Jamie's really good at deciphering what's going on and being able to put it into his words as to what needs to happen going forward. And he definitely has his way of talking, and it's a great way for Patrick. Patrick's known him since he was 7, so it's real easy way for Pat to hear him, and he knows exactly what Jamie wants or what he thinks he should do. As far as the team, you say it's just the three of us, and it's not anymore. For the last 4 years, the team's been growing, and he's got a great physio. He's got a great trainer. One of his best friends is now managing him, and he watches, he practices with him at home. So, I mean, he's, the team's big. And so there's a lot of moving parts, but, everybody definitely works together. And, some people might look at it and think it's crazy, but, for us, it seems to be working.
Tied for 8th at the Open this summer. You had 14th at the U.S. Open. Before that, I mean, your boy's clearly good enough to be a major champion. There's only 4 per year, so that kind of throws a bit more of a luck into the equation. But how would you evaluate his progress at hoisting one of those trophies here in the near future or in the future?
Yeah, like you said, timing, at different times of year, how does your body feel? Some of it can be timing. I do think he is getting more comfortable each and every time, each major that he plays in. Sometimes, obviously, we go to the Masters every year, and he's had some really low rounds there, but then he's had other rounds where, things didn't go our way. But he loves the golf course. So, to me, that's a course that really fits his eye, and he should play really well there. And I think he thinks he should play really well there. Then the other 3, though, you might go to a major event where you should be one of the favorites, and the course just doesn't look good, or it doesn't fit his eye, and the shape of the drivers just don't. And so it's going to be really hard for him to play to the level that he normally does. So
LA Country Club next summer, that would be kind of cool.
That would be really cool, sort of in his backyard. And he's played a decent amount of rounds there. Since he played a lot there, they've redone it. Again, I'm talking about big golf courses. Holy cow.
Yeah.
It's longer. It's as long as this place we're playing this week for sure.
Yeah, and you're at sea level. I've never played out there. I know they do a couple tee times every year at Riv. They let the guys come out and play. Have you played it before?
Where?
At LA Country Club?
No, and the family that I get to stay with a family out there, and they're members there, the Davises. And Rich took me around the golf course this last February and sort of showed me what I have to look forward to.
No photos, though.
No photos.
All right, I got 3 more for you. We'll get you out of here. What's your favorite course on tour?
It has become Riviera. Love it. It's just it's everything about it. You got to hit it good. You got to putt good. You got to figure out the greens. I enjoy every round I go around that place.
And you and I broke that sucker down earlier this year. I remember that. Loved the
We
place
did.
too.
Yeah.
What's the one tournament you'd most like to be on the bag for a win?
It's a toss up. I want to say the Masters, but each time I go to the Open Championship, I'm starting to think it might be the Open Championship.
All right. So then, final question. We'll use the Open Championship. Now you're playing. It sounds like you're a good player. You used to be a good player.
I don't play anymore.
You don't play anymore. I love caddies that don't play anymore. They're my favorite. I hate the game.
I hate the game. Everything about it.
So all right, you're playing. You're back to playing. I'm caddying for you. Let's say we're at St. Andrews. You've got a 1-shot lead going into the final round, and I'm out on the town too late. I break my leg. I can't go the next day. So I call you up that night. I'm like, dude, I can't go tomorrow. You can bring anybody in to loop for you in the final round. Who are you going to call the caddy for you to help get it done?
Scott Tway.
Scott Tway?
Only because he's sitting right behind me.
He knows what to do.
He knows me really well. And he obviously is incredibly knowledgeable about golf, but he knows me probably as good as anybody out here. And I think that's ultimately what you want. Whether you're too high or too low, you want somebody that keeps you, like you said, Patrick and I, it appears when we're out, or if you're watching on TV, that we're just even keel. I think ultimately that's what you would want on the golf course. And you need somebody that knows you to do that.
Thanks for taking some time out. It was great that Country made a little brief appearance there. Good luck to both of you guys this week in Delaware. Good luck at East Lake. Thanks for the time.
Yeah, thanks, John.
We'll be back soon with another podcast, so please subscribe. And in the meantime, make sure to follow the Caddie Network on all your social media channels. I'm host John Rathouz. Thank you for listening.